Welcome back to Cossy Arsenal Podcast. My name is Cossy. Welcome back to a brand new video. This is the latest Arsenal news and Arsenal update as well. We're going to be talking about David Raya and Ramsdale. According to Sammy Makpo from the Daily Mail, Mikel Arteta has made up his mind. He's going to be dropping Aaron Ramsdale for David Raya to get a consistent run of games after the international break. And this comes from the fact that Ramsdale has actually done very well, but Raya has impressed Mikel Arteta during training ever since arriving from Brentford. So the big question is, do we need to make changes to the starting 11 after the international break? In my opinion, absolutely yes. Do we need to make changes in the goalkeeping department? That is where the question is. And in the comment box below, join me guys on this one. Is Aaron Ramsdale our biggest problem right now? Is Aaron Ramsdale the biggest change we have to make to the starting 11? Or should we actually look in other areas, probably defense, probably that midfield with Kai Havertz, obviously, and also up top? Where should we be focusing? Where should Mikel Arteta focus his changes in the international break? For me, Trossard needs to get a line of games as well. Fabio Vieira needs to get a line of games because these are two players that have proven themselves to the manager that whatever happens, they're absolutely professional players and they're absolutely very quality players. So let me know in the comment box below, is it time to rotate our goalkeepers, get David Raya a run of games, maybe 5 games, maybe games until the next international break in October, just to see how he does, just to see what kind of goalkeeper do we have. I want your thoughts there in the comment box below. Now, the story comes in from the Daily Mail. Of course, I wouldn't really trust the Daily Mail, but I trust the reporter, and the reporter is actually my big man there, Sammy Makpo. He says Aaron Ramsdale is sweating over his position as number 1 at Arsenal, with Mikel Arteta weighing up handing David Raya a prolonged first-team chance after impressing in training. That is very, very interesting. And the key points there, according to the Daily Mail, are David Raya joined Arsenal on loan to provide competition for Aaron Ramsdale. That is very crucial. Point number 2, there is now a growing feeling that Mikel Arteta is keen to give David Raya an opportunity after him impressing in pre-season. And point number 3, we are going to be talking about the scapegoating of Aaron Ramsdale, the agenda against Aaron Ramsdale. So just to get into just a small part of the article, they're saying Arsenal goalkeeper Aaron Ramsdale is actually under increasing pressure to keep his position as Arsenal's first choice goalkeeper, with David Raya in line for a run of games in the first team. The Mail Sport understand that Ghana's head coach Mikel Arteta is seriously giving consideration to giving Raya a loan arrival from Brentford a prolonged first-team opportunity in the coming weeks. Ramsdale has established himself in the Ghana's number 1 since his arrival from Sheffield United in 2021, and as widely viewed as a first-choice goalkeeper, backing up to England's starting goalkeeper, that is Jordan Pickford. So they're saying right here that David Raya is going to be getting a run of games from Mikel Arteta, a problem that actually is very good to have for us as Arsenal fans, but that is going to be at the expense of Aaron Ramsdale. So what are your thoughts here? Should we give Raya a run of consistent games in the first team ahead of Aaron Ramsdale, or should we actually focus Raya on the Champions League and focus Ramsdale on the Premier League? As initially, those were my thoughts, right? That is what I actually thought. But listen, guys, listen to me before we get into this debate. I'm going to say this. Absolute good management from a manager is when a player impresses or works a lot harder in training and you actually give them a chance. So Mikel Arteta has already talked about Fabio Vieira and how this guy is becoming better and how this guy is actually magnificent, but he has not given him a chance to start games. Of course, it is early in the campaign, so is he going to start him? That would be good management. The other thing about good management would definitely be a player coming on, changing games, and then you realize his effort by giving him, much more minutes. Again, I'm talking about Fabio Vieira. We talk about Leandro Trossard all the time. Leandro Trossard has come on to games, changed them, and made Arsenal a much better side. He was our best player in pre-season, and he was not rewarded. He was not rewarded by starting games. Well, he has actually been rewarded or even punished by dropping to the bench. So will Mikel Arteta have the balls? Will Mikel Arteta have the courage to go? David Raya has impressed me in training more than Aaron Ramsdale, so therefore he deserves a run of games ahead of him. If he does that, it will be absolutely very good management, like I said on the WhatsApp group forum a couple of hours ago. Right. So let's get to the gist of this. Raya came in as a backup to Aaron Ramsdale. That is not true, right? And that's where I'm going to, start correcting Sammy Makpo and, whoever wrote this article. David Raya did not come in as a backup to Aaron Ramsdale. He came in with the idea of competition, and I'm going to explain the difference according to how Mikel Arteta has actually put it all the time. So Arsenal have had a couple of good players per position. You look at our, goalkeeping department. Matt Turner is the starting goalkeeper at Nottingham Forest, and the truth is that he's actually not doing any bad. He's not actually a bad goalkeeper. You look at our, striking, Edin Ketia and Gabriel Jesus. You look at the left-hand side, Trossard and Martinelli, and Emile Smith-Rowe. So we have that kind of competitiveness in the team. And that's what Mikel Arteta wants to see. He wants to see his players competing with each other per position. Every single time, every now and then, players have to be competing, right? It's not about I'm the starting goalkeeper and therefore Raya is a backup. It's not about that. It's about how well are you doing in training and how well are you doing right on the pitch. So I really welcomed the signing of David Raya, and I think it's going to make Arsenal better. I think Arsenal will become a much better side with David Raya on the bench. One thing I don't agree with all these publications is the agenda on Aaron Ramsdale. Ramsdale certainly last campaign was not a bad goalkeeper, and this campaign, the arrival of David Raya does not make him a worse goalkeeper. So when everyone says Ramsdale has to drop, Raya has to start, Ramsdale has to drop, Raya has to start, you're literally implying, and the media are literally implying that Ramsdale has actually become a much poorer goalkeeper, a much worse goalkeeper ever since the arrival of David Raya. If that is true, then the signing of David Raya has not served its implication, has not served its purpose, because the real purpose, the reason why Arsenal brought in David Raya was to compete with Ramsdale, because we know we have a very good goalkeeper. We know there is that quality in Aaron Ramsdale. There is that chamber of quality in Ramsdale that has to be unlocked. And how do you unlock it? You go to Brentford, you bring in a goalkeeper who's 2 years older than him, a goalkeeper that is much better than him in almost each and every aspect, and he's going to pull his socks up. He has served penalties for us not to win silverware, Community Shield, Emirates Cup. He's becoming a much better goalkeeper. I just don't understand the agenda. I just don't understand why it's so relevant that every day we must read a story about Ramsdale's going to be dropped. Ramsdale has to be dropped. Ramsdale's not good enough. Last campaign, one of the best goalkeepers in the Premier League, they said. This campaign, because we also have a new goalkeeper, and they always have an agenda on someone. Ramsdale has certainly become worse because of this guy. I actually don't think so. Now, I'm not going to compare the two goalkeepers because we've already done that on the channel. If you're new, make sure you do subscribe so that you don't miss the daily content. I think Raya is a much better goalkeeper, right? But does Ramsdale deserve his flowers? Absolutely, right? Raya impressing in training does not mean that Aaron Ramsdale is actually doing the opposite in training. So they don't say Mikel Arteta is disappointed with David Raya, but they say, with Aaron Ramsdale, but they say he's actually impressed with David Raya. Okay. Now, the key point in this, and why I think these stories are really, formed with an agenda, there is something true about it. There is something real about it. I think Mikel Arteta will eventually come out and give David Raya his chances, right? I think David Raya will have 5-6 games or even 10 games in that Arsenal goal in the Premier League. I think it will happen. But it will not happen to the demerit of Aaron Ramsdale. It will happen on the merit of David Raya. Okay, so for me, I don't have a problem with Rice starting games. I don't have a problem with him coming into the side. All I want is balanced reporting between these guys, right? They're trying to show that Ramsdale is on a massive decline and therefore Raya is needed. That is not true. We know as Arsenal fans, we've seen it. Ramsdale is still a key player and a crucial player to this team. So what I think about this and what I think about Raya coming into the side is actually pretty objective. If Mikel Arteta thinks that his system is going to be on merit, you do well in training, you do well on the pitch, and therefore you deserve a chance to start, I don't have a problem with that. I mean, top managers do that. I've talked about Jurgen Klopp. I've talked about, Pep Guardiola. When a player does well, when a player comes out and, they literally blow the manager out of proportion, he starts games. Manuel Akanji last campaign is a very good example. Manuel Akanji played more games than Aymeric Laporte, and Manuel Akanji was just a cheap signing from Borussia Dortmund, and he came in and he fit into the side right away, and the manager said, "You've got to start. You've got to play." Why? Because you are absolutely much better than Aymeric Laporte. It's the same thing with Nathan Ake. He played at left back and Joao Cancelo actually left and they won their treble. It's the same thing with John Stones. He played at right back and they won the treble. So for me, if anyone says it's going to be Mikel Arteta awarding David Raya, and the communication should be very clear to Aaron Ramsdale when this happens, we are actually awarding David Raya not because you're not good enough, not because you don't deserve to start, but it is to encourage him. It is to motivate him. It is to meet our own end of the obligation that when he does well, we will actually give him a run of games. I think Ramsdale will really understand. But by the way, in the recent few games, I've loved and I've grown to love Ramsdale more and more. He's becoming better. And all these excuses of Raya is better defensively, Raya is better when it comes to picking crosses, Raya is better when it comes to playing out from the back. I think Raya is a very good goalkeeper, and there's no question about that. And I think his ball playing ability is 10 times that of Aaron Ramsdale, right? Is David Raya more suited for the system we are playing right now as compared to Ramsdale? Absolutely, right? But I don't think Mikel Arteta has looked at Aaron Ramsdale and he has gone, he cannot try it. He cannot even, come anywhere close to the levels I want my goalkeeper to be. I don't think it's true. Otherwise, Ramsdale wouldn't have signed a long-term contract at the club. As simple as that. So for me, guys, Ramsdale is still a good goalkeeper. If Raya is coming in, I have no problem. It will be a sign of good management from Mikel Arteta to give a player who's done well his flowers and to tell him, show him, if you do well, if you continue doing well, I'm going to continue picking you. I don't have a problem with them. But when that happens, and I want to be very concise here, when that happens, it should happen with Emile Smith-Rowe. It should happen with Fabio Vieira. It should happen with Leandro Trossard. It should happen with Reece Nelson. So the favoritism and the occasional picking of the loved ones must stop at Arsenal. Saka cannot play 90 minutes every single time. He can play 90 minutes when it's good. When the game is off, he can play 70, 65. It's the same thing with Gabriel Martinelli. It's the same thing with Gabriel Jesus. It's the same thing with Kai Havertz. Okay, Kai Havertz must not start every single game if he comes from the international break and he's not become a much better player. We don't have that time. There is a Fabio Vieira who's doing very well. There is a Leandro Trossard who's done very well since preseason as well. So what I want to see from Mikel Arteta and why I have a problem with all this happening, players are going to actually, feel underappreciated and unappreciated as well. Imagine if David Raya is awarded for his performances in training and Fabio Vieira is not, and Leandro Trossard is not, and Emile Smith-Rowe is not, right? I don't think there will be chaos at Arsenal. I don't think there will be a dressing room scandal. What Mikel Arteta has done is to ensure that Arsenal will have absolute harmony. Actually, the word is conformity in that dressing room. Getting rid of Aubameyang in the manner and in the nature he did, getting Ozil in the same manner and nature, it just communicates the values and what is actually expected of players at this club. But I want to see those changes cut across the board. Raya in, Gabriel starts every game, Fabio Vieira starts, Kai to the bench. If Mikel says, I'm going with players by merit, I'm selecting players by merit, then definitely Fabio Vieira and Leandro Trossard and maybe David Raya, who's impressed in training, will have to start in the next game. But what do you think about David Raya getting a run of games? I would love it. I would love to see what is that we paid for. 8 million. Is it around 8 million? Is it around 8 or 5 on loan plus another guaranteed 23? Should have been a lot of money. It should have been a lot of money, right? So the player must be very, very good. I'll talk to you right in the next one. But of course, Mikel Arteta is considering giving David Raya a run of games ahead of Aaron Ramsdale when the international break comes back.